In this demonstration, we're now going to show you where you go in the Azure portal to configure user-defined routes as well as configure VNet peers. So let's head straight over there. Here in the portal, the first thing we're going to do is show you how to configure the user-defined routes. To do that, simply search from the top for route, and you should see something come up called route tables. Go ahead and select that. Once you're in the route tables, by default, unless you've created any user-defined routes, you won't see anything there. Go ahead and select Add. And now give your route table a name. So we'll call ours SL UDR test for my example. Choose your subscription and your resource group. And go ahead and select Create. That should take about 20 seconds to deploy, and once completed, you have your route table. So go ahead and select your route table. And now the way we go about doing this is to go to Settings and go to Routes, and then create our specific route. For example, we might want to connect to a network virtual appliance like a Palo Alto, so we might say SL NVA Palo route. Choose our address prefix for the hop, so we might say 10.0.0/24 for that address prefix, and then we can choose from the next hop type. You won't get an option to choose the IP unless you choose virtual appliance. So you can see there that I now am able to enter my next hop address. So this could be a hop in a different subnet for that gateway appliance. So 10.0, let's say 5.90, for example. That could be where that appliance sits, and hit OK. And after about 30 seconds or so, that route will get created. Now the routes themselves aren't any use unless you associate them with a subnet. So now that that route's been added, if I just refresh, you can see that route there. It won't actually do anything unless I go into subnets and associate this whole entire route table with my virtual network. So I could select one there and select my subnet as well. So this is just an example for you. I'm not going to do it in this case, but hopefully that shows you that you could design an entire route table and then associate it with multiple virtual networks and subnets that you see fit. Now the second thing we need to do is go back and look at peering. So if we go to virtual networks, and we see we've got our two networks there, let's see what happens if we try to peer these. To do that, we can go into 7533-portal, scroll down, and you'll see the section called peerings, and go here and select Add to add a new peering, and give it a name. But what you'll notice, let's call this SL test for the moment because it's not actually going to work. If we go down to virtual network, choose a virtual network, and you can see there's nothing it can peer with, and the reason for that is that everything there has overlap in address space, which naturally will not work because we won't be able to route to it. So let's cancel out of this, and let's create a new virtual network. We'll go back to virtual networks, select Add. We'll call this one SL-70533-peer. And let's give it an address space. Now watch here, if we type in 10.0.2.0/23, it'll actually tell us already when we build in VNets, which is okay. We could, if we wanted to, build lots of VNets with overlap in address space if we didn't want to, but you can see here it does warn us that there's overlap in address space. So I'm not going to use this one. I'm actually going to use 10.04.0/23 as well. And out of subscriptions, use pay-as-you-go, choose your resource group, and scroll down. I've got to create a default subnet for this one, which I'll just choose the first one, /24. I'll put that in the right box, there we go, and then give it a name. And with that, go ahead and create that VNet. Just refresh, probably take a few seconds, there we go. And now if I go into that VNet, into peer, and I go down to peerings, I can now click Add, the name again, and I can choose my virtual network, and you will see that Portal and my other VNet, the pshell one, are both available because they do not have overlap in address space. And so we'll just select one of those for now, just to show you the rest of the settings available to you here. You've also got things like allow forwarded traffic, and this basically says that I'm going to allow forwarded traffic from outside of the peered VNet, so traffic that's destined for this virtual network but came from outside the peered VNet. The other two that I've got here is around gateway, so I can allow gateway transit. This allows the peered network to use the gateway in this VNet and essentially use it to traverse maybe to on-premises as an example. And then the other option is use remote gateways. And to use remote gateways, I do have to allow gateway transit. It requires that to be checked, but then allows this network to use the peer's gateway instead. And with that, that's everything you need to know around user-defined routes and peer-ins. And I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and that's the end of this demo.